This is an essential product for anybody doing wiring on a model rail layout. A big hello to you, how the devil are you? It's so great to see you and I hope I find you well. I'm Kirk, welcoming you up to Weir Yard, and today we're going to be talking about little gadgets that really do make your modelling life easier. And this has come about because Train Tech have very generously sent over a little, quite inexpensive little tool, and it looks to be a bit of a game changer if, like me, you're not really great with electrics, and I kind of muddle through. But one of the things that I find really difficult is visualizing what's going on. Where is that electricity? Because you can't see it, it's invisible. You've just kind of got to hope that there's a proper connection all the way through. And I know from experience, sometimes you have that little dead spot and you just can't work out what on earth is going on. Well, the track tester from Train Tech is an inexpensive little tool that allows you to finally visualize where that electricery is, and more importantly, where it isn't. So today, we're going to put it through its paces here on Weir Yard, and bear in mind this is a layout that's been up and running for a number of years now, but there are a few little places where trains just love to misbehave, and I've got a suspicion that I've got a few little dead spots, and up until now they've been impossible to track down and fix. But the little track tester from Train Tech, hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to prove to be the tool to really make my life easier. So come with me and let's road test this cunning little product. Actually, it doesn't cost a huge amount, and maybe it should be in everybody's toolkit. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Check out the full range available to browse and buy today at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from Rocar Prototype Models, where detail, accuracy and value for money go hand in hand. With their debut model of SafePack auto racks wowing model railroaders alike, now is your chance to order these in road names and configurations to accurately reproduce auto rack workings from 1974 to the present day on your model railroad. Order today from rocarmodels.com and see the full range for yourself. So, is the track tester from Train Tech the tool that you can no longer do without? Is it going to solve all of your electrical woes? Well, come with me in today's video and we'll put it through its paces. And of course, if you really like the look of these and want to get one for yourself, they don't cost a huge amount, but we've got an affiliate link down below to help you find these, and maybe add this as the essential tool for your toolbox. This is the Train Tech track tester, a bit of a tongue twister, and this is from Gagemaster, but Train Tech is kind of a subsidiary company that is very much involved in the electrical type of things, and they do all sorts of things such as signals, coach lighting, and this tool, which really has kind of answered my prayers, because I've been thinking for a while about how I can go about tracking down a suspected dead spot on Weir Yard, and then out of the blue, Train Tech very kindly sent this over, so it's like they were reading my thoughts. And it works for a multiple of different gauges. We've got N, TT, OO, HO, and of course that covers you as well for 009, HOE, HOM, an awful lot of other narrow gauge type scales too. So even if you've got multiple layouts, which I do, this is going to work with them all. Also good for DC, AC, and DCC railways, so really a one-stop shop. And really, in essence, what this is doing is telling you what's going on between your two rails. You should have a positive and a negative rail, and what this is doing is it's allowing current to flow from one rail to the other when you put it onto the rail heads, and it lights up this LED in the process if all is well. So if it detects that there is a difference, you've got a negative and a positive rail, that light lights up and you know all is well. If the light is flickering or it's dim for whatever reason, then you know that you've got something like, say, a dry solder joint, or even some kind of voltage drop. And if it doesn't light up at all, then you know that one of those rails is completely dead to the world, and then you know exactly where you're looking to track down faults. And there's nothing worse than having a very, very short dead spot on a layout. It's not long enough to stop most trains from running. Indeed, if you've got a longer locomotive with multi-pickups, it's not even going to notice that dead spot, and that makes it even harder to track down. But if you've got a small 040 type shunter, it's going to find all of those dead spots, and this allows you to nail them down really quickly and easily. Another area where it's really, really good is checking other bits of wiring. Like if you've got sections that you want to isolate, this tells you if you're actually isolating them. If you've got a rotary switch to change tracks between, say, DC and DCC, this is a very good visual representation that all is working well. And at electrofrog points, you can use this to make sure that your frog polarity is correctly set up. And that's really, really useful. So for example, if you're using something like the digital IP cobalt point motors, where they've got a single wire for changing frog polarity, that'll tell you instantly whether you need to reverse the input wires into the point motor to make sure that your frog polarity is actually set correctly. Otherwise, it's very much a case of trial and error, and without a visual representation, it can be quite difficult. So I'm really looking forward to putting this through its paces. It's really simple to get into the packaging. I'm just going to just pull this open. Just a few staples holding it in place. I'm just doing this carefully, or as carefully as I can, because actually we've got some full instructions in here. I just want to take a quick look. So here is the tester. It's just held on a little sticky pad just to stop it from moving around. So we can just remove that. So looking here, what have we got? Well, you can see that we've got a little bit of information here. So on DCC, we're looking for an orange LED. And then we've got red and green depending on which side of your track is negative and which side is positive. And this could be helpful if, say, for example, you've got an isolated section and you've managed to reverse the wires to that section. And what that would actually do is everything would be fine until you try and get a locomotive to cross out of the section, and then you get a mystery short, and this would help you track that down. On the underside, we've got some quite wide metal pads, and this is what's going to pick up the power from the track. We'll just rest it down, and they're wide enough that it can encompass anything from N gauge up to 00, and of course all of the other gauges that fall within that, from 016.5 down to HOE and 009. So we'll just put that to one side and just have a quick look. And just as I said in the introduction, it does show you the visual representation of any particular issues with your electrics, which if you're a techno weenie like me is perfect. So there we are, quick instructions. And just as a quick caution, just make sure you put the track tester in line with the rails as shown, because if twisted you could bypass a component and damage the LED. So we're just going to make sure when we're putting it on the track that we have the rails parallel to the markings on the top. Don't ever try and put it down like that, because you'll just short it out and cause a huge problem. I've put the tester onto my DC test track here on the rail head the correct way round, turn up the power, and you can see there we've got the polarity showing in that particular direction. If I change the polarity, basically go from forward to reverse on the controller, we get the green, the red, the green, and the red. And I can move this over onto my 009 test track, and there we go. We've got green, red, green, red. I've moved over onto the main weir yard layout, and I'm going to bring in that tester and just place it down. If you have any difficulties, because it is quite light, just push down and just make sure it's making contact. So you can see there it lights up in the orange, showing that we've got good track power right there. Now I've moved the track tester to here, and this is to show you how it can be used to verify the wiring for the electrofrog on an electrofrog point. So at the moment the point is set against that track, so that should be both rails the same polarity, so that this frog is the right polarity for this rail. When I change the points, you can see that it lights up because now the point has changed and that frog has to change polarity, so it's now at a different polarity to that line there. If I take the tester and move it over here, you can see it doesn't light up until I change the route, and then correctly it's lighting up because this route is set. If I change the points back, it goes out, and that tells us that this point is correctly wired and that the frog polarity change is working as it should. Now here's an area which I've always had trouble with, and this line just leading off this point, no matter what I do, is completely dead. Just testing this one, lights up, this one, no go. Now this is an insel frog point, and what it suggests to me, even though it's set for that route, I can push the point blades, and there. We've tracked down the fault to being the point blades. And this is always a bad thing to do, to rely just on the point blades for the power to go through. So there's an easy fix for this. We just add another dropper, say there, and we've bypassed the need to have the point blade supply the power to that section of track. And with the aid of this tester, we've been able to track that down and actually diagnose exactly what the fault is, rather than just having to guess. So what I've done is I've wired in a dropper. There was actually a hole drilled here, I found, that was slightly hidden in the ballast, and it's quite clear that I'd made a hole to put a dropper in, and for whatever reason it had got overlooked. With that dropper now soldered in place to the main bus, you can see that we've now got power to this section, and this is completely independent from the point blades now. The track tester has also proven really valuable to track down the worst kind of fault, the intermittent ones, and right now the fault is manifesting itself. At the moment there is no power getting to this section, even though it should be, but if I push this blade in, let's just make sure that that's got a good connection, and you can see there, for some reason, even though there's a connection to the frog rail there, it's just relying on this. And when I've looked underneath and traced the wires and looked extra carefully at where this wire goes, what I found is actually there's a dry solder joint. And that, now that I know exactly where to look, is pretty easy to find and fix. But before, it would have probably been something of a wild goose chase, because you'd never be quite certain what's actually going on. With the solder joint addressed, the light is now on, and even if we just slide these apart gently, you can see that we've got a much better electrical continuity. This is the final area which has been bugging me since I built Weir Yard, and you can see on this track, no matter how much I jiggle this around, we're just not getting electrical continuity, and this track is dead. We've got droppers to it, but I think we're going to have to try and trace where they go. And to give us a clue, if I change the points at either end of this loop, you can see that suddenly it springs into life. And that tells me that the loop is requiring the point blades for electrical continuity. Now in DC running, this might be a good idea, because you could then use the loop as an isolating section. But in DCC, this just adds unreliability to the running. So what I want to do is to try and chase where the dropper is not working, and just see if we can isolate which of these two tracks is causing the issue. So for that, I'm going to change the points. And then I'm actually going to use a piece of solder just to bridge across. So from that rail to that rail, and you can see that actually we have an issue with this rail not getting power. The other rail is fine. And that's interesting because that's not what I was expecting, and certainly if I was doing fault finding conventionally, that would be really, really difficult. And what it tells me is that there's something really funky going on at the points, which we can fix quite easily by adding a dropper to this wire, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. We've now got power to this line, and just to make sure, I'm going to change the points on the loop both ways, and there's not even a flicker. So yet another strange problem has actually been able to be diagnosed and fixed using this track tester from Train Tech. So overall, this is an essential product for anybody doing wiring on a model rail layout. And as a final little project idea, how about this as a conversion for your track tester to be able to check point work or indeed cover an awful lot of ground very, very quickly. I've mounted it in an old defunct Hellion Class 17 bogie, and actually the clip on the top, which formerly held some of the transmission into the worm gear, which I've also removed, is perfect for clipping the track tester in place. With the pads underneath just soldered to the original pickups, I can now just roll this through point work and along track and get a very quick and easy readout of what exactly is going on electrically. Manufacturers such as Bachmann do sell coach bogies with power pickups as spare parts, or you could have a go at making your own using a scrap bogie and anything like a springy piece of wire or copper to manufacture the pickups. If you want it to be even more sensitive, you can always remove the pickups from one axle, and that means you're just interested in what this one axle here is doing as it rolls through the point work. It makes it really, really useful and versatile. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's video and found it informative as well. And don't forget that we've got a link in the description box down below to take you to where you can find your own track tester from Train Tech. And certainly it's not the most expensive of items, but I found it really, really useful. And as you saw in today's video, it's a really great way of visualizing what's going on with the power. And I think if you're very much like me with electrics and kind of muddle through, this is the perfect solution to that. Not just for finding dead spots on your track, maybe somewhere where a dropper hasn't been wired in properly, or even where you've got a dry solder joint, but also for wiring up electrofrog points. It's really, really useful for checking that all is well and actually that the point changes the polarity in the correct direction for the track, or even that you remember to wire up the frog properly. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Is this perhaps something you've used in the past, or indeed is it something that you're already making a beeline to get one for yourself to ease some of the woes that you've had with your wiring? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. Do leave a message. And you can also check us out over on Patreon, where we've got a number of different tiers of rewards to suit anybody who wants to help this channel keep making the videos that you want to see. And a little reminder that we've still got some of our exclusive Monday Club wagons available to order. You'll find a link for them in the description box down below. And the merch, of course, you too can be resplendent in a Billy's replacement speakers, or indeed Gronk It Up t-shirt, hoodie, and have that on your mug as well. Always a great way to start the day with a mug of Billy's replacement coffee, of course. But until next time, you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. Additional support comes from Rocar Prototype Models, where detail, accuracy and value for money go hand in hand. With their debut model of SafePack auto racks wowing model railroaders alike, Now is your chance to order these in road names and configurations to accurately reproduce auto-rack workings from 1974 to the present day on your model railroad. Order today from rocarmodels.com and see the full range for yourself. I'd like to send out a huge thanks to everybody who supports me on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Offshore Allen, Michael Lockie, Helen Sink, Gary Lewis, David Quinn, Sparky107107, George Botterini, Chris Moss, Robert Steers, Sam Yates, Dale Williams, John N. from NC, NYMRish, Jonathan Foster, Peter, Clifford Ison, Larry W. Grant, NI Railways 4000 class, Ian Coulson, Alan Dickerson, Eddie Popper, Karen Nichol, Medwin Williams, Crossways Point Junction, 3B Rail, Jennifer Horton, and James Beckett. Thank you. Without you guys, I couldn't do this.